Now we have Tori 3D. This was actually the only game of these demos that I had heard of beforehand, and apparently it was done by the same folks who made that scary ramen game from the last Haunted demo disc. Traverse through oversaturated 3D platformer levels as Tori and see what surprises await. I like how honest they are with the oversaturated part. It almost looks like my graphics card is corrupted or something. Oh hey Scully, just hanging around, huh? This one might be one of the most straightforward games on the demo disc. It's a 3D platformer. Pretty fun one too, with bright visuals and fun techno-y music. Double jumping, collecting stars, big happy stars in the background too. I actually don't see anything spooky going on here. Wait, is that a tear in the fabric of the game revealing code? Oh. Okay, maybe this does get scary. The demo itself is pretty short, but they show off more of the full title at the end, and it looks pretty cool. Next up, the Lunar Effect. The Lunar Effect takes its protagonist on a dark and unfamiliar path. Awakening in a strange mansion, he must discover the fate of its inhabitants and find a way out. A strange mansion, huh? I don't suppose this is gonna be... Yup, we got another Resident Evil-esque survival horror title on our hands. This time, you even get to play as a We Have Leon at Home protagonist. We'll call him Noel. Noel B. Roosevelt.
Sir?
All joking aside, I think this might actually be my favorite of these types of games on the disc. Noel even has full-on tank controls this time, unlike the other demos where you just run in whatever direction you press. We've got a spooky mansion, we got old ominous texts that give us both lore and hints on what to do, and puzzles of just about every variety. The visuals also have this interesting, somewhat cel-shaded look with PS1 crunch added onto it. This is really enjoyable overall. There's even a little Scully doll you can find. How many games is this guy in? The only thing that stresses me out a bit is that timer on the top right of the screen. I didn't think too much of it at first, but towards the very end of the demo, I was tasked at solving one of those pipe dream type puzzles which I'm not any good at, and I get especially bad when I'm panicking under a time limit. I was thankfully able to complete it in time, but man did I cut it close. And my reward? That I guess. We better book it. Phew. Moving on, we have Loveland. Well, that sounds like a pleasant change of pace. Take on the role of the detective as you delve into a world of murder, kidnapping, and other atrocities, all at the behest of frogs. Frogs, huh? That doesn't sound scary. Man, this game just reminds me of how nice the lighting is on a lot of these demos. This game can technically be the shortest yet if you just turn around and leave immediately, but we should probably try it out a bit more. So Loveland is apparently a trailer park, and we've been sent here to investigate some disappearances and or murders. That means going from trailer to trailer, trying to find clues as to what's been going on. Most of these seem to be empty and pretty innocuous at first, but we start finding signs of weirdness. Turns out this park has a bit of a frog obsession, provoked by one resident in particular who became awakened after tasting one, which prompted him to make frogs shine and share it with other people. Yeah, like moonshine, except with frogs. Things quickly go from weird to unsettlingly creepy when we start hearing noises and seeing aggressive warnings left behind. This only gets worse as we find things like a dead body and someone being brainwashed into joining the frog cult. There's a gate that seems to lead up to what may be the source of all this, but we can't enter into it without finding all the pieces of medallion first. But even then, do we really want to go in there unprotected? Do we want to end up like this guy? Nah, what we need is some frog repellent.
Frog repellent. Never leave home without it.
Oh, don't forget to find the secret haunted PS1 VHS tape too. Next, we got Still Ridge. An astral traveler navigates the dreams and nightmares of the citizens of Still Ridge, a West Virginia mountain town with a sinister history. This is another demo that really stood out to me, though it did take me a bit to figure out what I was doing. This one's a 3D point-and-click game with the bulk of the demo taking place in a single hallway. How does that work exactly? Well, whenever we try to exit out the left side of it, it just wraps us back around again. The goal here is to solve the puzzles on the different shelves that will in turn cause different events to happen in the hallway before spitting us right back out into it again. This includes listening in on a radio to hear specific timed events relating to a murder case and then setting an alarm clock in the room to match it, and cutting open the distended belly of a teddy bear to find pills. Our reward for solving these puzzles are some really uncomfortable interactions, like the weeping woman behind the cracked door, and whatever the hell this is supposed to be. Ooh. Donkey. Oh! Donkey Kong, why did you do this? When we finally get this door unlocked and exit the hallway, we start free falling. And now we're in a diner. Were we just sleeping the whole time and now we're awake? Or are we just in a different dream now? Hard to say, but our conversation with JB here does give us a lot more background as to what's going on in the story and why we came to this town in the first place. And then Mike Ehrmantraut shows up. Well, I gotta play the full game now. Creeping in next is Mummy Sandbox. Become the mummy you always wanted to be. Rebuild your body as you dig through forgotten sandboxes. Puzzles and voxels await in this bizarro Minecraft meets point and click adventure. The mummy we always wanted to be. Finally. Now this demo's probably gotta be the most abstract and alien of the whole collection. I mean, when you start off, you don't even have a body yet. You have to press and release space at the right time to breathe in and out and collect yourself an eyeball. From there, you explore a literal sandbox as you slowly build yourself up and gain more abilities, like being able to dig and jump. The way you get these is by digging up other corpses and then borrowing or trading items and or body parts with them. After a while, you're able to fly over to other sandboxes where you repeat the same process. This might seem overly simple or even monotonous, but there's something really fascinating about this game. It's almost like a creature from another dimension designed it, and somehow it got ported over to our world with limited translation. I really dig the vibe of it. Screaming onto the next demo, we have An Outcry. An exploration of life in a doomed country under the wings of a vague menace. Ooh, that sounds promising. This demo actually has the distinction of being the only completely 2D game in the collection, and I appreciate its inclusion here. Here we play as an unnamed protagonist living in Austria who's going through a lot of mental health issues. They also seem to identify as non-binary, which most of their neighbors treat with varying degrees of rude disrespect. The protag is clearly having a lot of identity issues, even preferring to refer to themselves in the third person most of the time, almost like they can't fully comprehend that they are who they are. Their one friendly neighbor, Anne, is the only one who seems to put any effort into actually understanding and being there for them. Anyway, the main goal of the game is to bum a cigarette and lighter off of someone and then smoke outside. But don't worry, there's a lot of heavy stuff that happens on our way to do that. The most mild of which is us accidentally getting locked out of our apartment. The pixel art is simple but charming, with the occasional close-up sprites having more detail for certain moments. And the music is bonkers in the best way. Kinda get a Suda51 vibe with that, which is good if you know me. A bit farther in, we start getting harassed and threatened by a bird. Are we losing our minds, or is there something more going on here?
Next we have Pratogoris Bleeds.
Driving down a lonely Colorado road in the dead of night, blood begins to drip from your car's AC as if it were a gaping wound. Luckily, there's a motel nearby. Blood dripping from an AC? That's just preposterous. Oh, it's really happening. Well, gosh. So here we got another tank control game, baby. Gotta love the tank. We play as this dude trying to skip town while also giving a ride to a woman who seems to be headed to the same place as him. Unfortunately, his car breaks down, so they're forced to stay at a suspiciously empty hotel for the night. Oh, sorry, it's a luxury motel. Is that a paradox? I'll admit, I had a real hard time navigating this game, mostly when I was looking all over the outside for a certain motel room number, only to find out that there were more located inside. Maybe that's what makes it a luxury motel? Interestingly, when you make it into the room, the game changes into an FPS perspective. Everything's going fine until he hears a noise in the middle of the night that sounds like a scream, so he goes out to investigate. I'd tell you what he finds, but we don't want to spoil all the games, do we? Ghastly Goodies. It's Halloween and that means candy. Play as Pete or Sarah and try to avoid the tricks as you gather some treats. Were you looking forward to another cartoony PS1 horror demo? No? Too bad. Just when you think you've seen all the retro VHS tape filters, man, this is a cool one. So anyway, this game begins with neglectful parents kicking their kid out of a car in the middle of a deserted street so they can go to a party. But that's okay because candy. Strangely, this game also has authentic tank controls despite looking more like a 3D platformer, though I guess those did exist too. So it starts off simple enough, we're just running around grabbing candy, doing floating rock puzzles, you know, the usual. But eventually the ghoulies start appearing and it's time to run. The inside of the haunted place has more of the same, candy, puzzles, and pursuing monsters that we do not want to run into. I actually really like the way that the music transitions sometimes between scenes and room changes. Very dynamic. Alright, we're in the final stretch now with just the top floor games left to go. Let's do it. That which gave chase. With the storm on the horizon, a sled dog musher is hired to transport a strange scientist into the mountains. Oh cool, I always wanted to go sledding. So this game has a really interesting pacing to it. You start off sledding towards your cabin destination at daytime, and then suddenly mid-gameplay, it hard cuts with a time jump to later in the day, and the storm having grown stronger. You have to be careful with the sledding, tilting appropriately to keep balance, because if you lean too far to one side, you'll fall out, and you'll have to set the sled back up all over again, which takes a little time to do. It gives the impression that later on, you'll be wanting to do this as quickly as you can for some reason. This scientist might be one of them, I don't know. I don't like the way he's smiling at us like that. As we approach the cabin, everything seems fine, and then suddenly another jump cut, and we're in the middle of a forest with a gun in our hands. The heck is going on? The time skips here are done brilliantly. They keep you disoriented and on alert, making you feel like something dreadful is going to happen. I mean, why else would we suddenly be lost in the wilderness holding a gun? Is it because of that? Do we have to shoot a wild animal? Whoa, wait, that's one of our sled dogs. I guess they got lost and now we're trying to collect them? Man, this game just makes you paranoid without any blatant dangers at all. They're doing something good here. I have no idea what's going on here, but I think I'm sold on this already. Chasing Static. Chasing Static is a first-person psychological horror short story. Uncover the forgotten remains of a government cover-up where a mysterious phenomenon caused time to stand still. Wow, I put a shock to your system. So here's another one of those I was driving on a spooky road and then stuff started happening openings. Huh, the way that the steering wheel's on the right side. We must be in the UK. This time, at least we end up in a diner with someone else inside. In fact, she even offers to go with us and give us directions after she finishes closing up, as long as we drop her off. Hey, sounds good to me. Wouldn't want to be out here all alone. Just gotta go fix the power breaker real quick, and we can be on our way. Should be simple enough. Welp, I really should have known better. A creepy phone call tells us not to go into the woods, so, alright, I wasn't planning on doing that anyway, but sure. We'll just drive on out of here on our own. Whoa! Holy crap. Guess we're going into the woods after all. As you can guess, there's a lot of unchill stuff in these here woods, including bad odors.
Oh, that smell. Oh, it smells.
Imagine seeing a dead body and the first thing you say is, "Ooh, they're smelly." In all honesty, this game has a good spooky vibe to it. Seasoning on next, we have the Salt Order. Look, I'm running out of ways to introduce games here. Draw with salt and fight your way through the cursed realm of the Endless Tree. Apparently we crossed the wrong cult at the start of this game. These stonecutter boys, referring to us as prisoner, task us with entering the realm of the Endless Tree. While this isn't an FPS POV, we don't get a gun, but instead a much more interesting gameplay mechanic. Salt. No, really, you'll see. The objectives are simple enough. Get in the church before the bell rings 4 times, keep the beasts in your sight, you know, usual stuff. The way you use the salt here is pretty neat. The demons you run into are harmless, so long as you're looking right at them. Unfortunately, you can't do that constantly. You gotta turn around eventually. That's where the salt comes in. The lines you draw make barriers that they aren't able to pass through. But you gotta make sure those lines are solid, because if there's a break in them, they're gonna come get you. I think the use of these barriers and these types of enemies works perfectly for a horror game, especially as you start dealing with more and more of them and you have to start rationing your salt lines. You're gonna be on your toes, looking back and forth, making sure you're throwing those lines out in the right places at the right time, keeping those beasts at bay, all the while listening for that church bell, which indicates that you're running out of time. Okay, it rang 3 times already, I gotta hurry. Oh, I can't let those demons get me either. Ah, come on. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Whew. That was intense. Next is Apolysis. Explore the broken husk, shed your flesh, be born anew. Apolysis? Isn't that what insects do when they molt? So it's starting to feel a little less special now, but yes, this game also has those full-on tank controls. That's where the similarities to the other tank control demos in this disc begin and end though, I think. This isn't really a survival horror game as much as it's you traversing through and witnessing some of the most simultaneously beautiful and unsettling imagery in this whole collection. I mean, these camera shots, the cinematography is gorgeous, even if we're looking at like human collarbones spinning around in the air. I guess we're technically collecting items for progression, but seriously, just walking around and looking at the environment is rewarding in itself. It's like this mixture of industrial hell and bioorganic nightmare. Whatever it is, I want to see more of this. Next is Pathogen X. Infiltrate an underground lab and retrieve the vaccine to a mutant virus in this action-packed survival horror shooter. You know what this collection's been missing? A 3D action shooter roguelike. Yeah, funnily enough, this one probably has the most Resident Evil inspired menu aesthetics of any of the games, but it doesn't play anything like it. What you do here, at least in the one mode that's currently available, is make your way through the facility to find a vaccine before returning back to the starting room for your escape, fighting your way through some definitely not zombie mutants the entire time. The aiming and movement feels pretty good, and you have a nice range of weapons to use. You even get a nifty dodge roll to help you avoid damage. The real challenge begins when you reach the vaccine and start making your way back to the start, cause that's when these totally not BOWs show up and really give you some trouble. These guys are walking tanks. You can avoid most of them if you're careful enough, but once you make it back to that starting room, there's a final one that you must kill in order to make your escape, so make sure you have the ammo for it. Be careful with your shots, dodge frequently, take it out, and that's it. The roguelike part comes in with the replays as the structure of the building changes each time you play it, though it is pretty limited at the moment since it's a demo. And finally, with that, we have finished the final regular game. Now we gotta find the 2 secret ones. Yep. Okay, so the first one is actually pretty easy to find. If you've noticed, as you play each demo, the exhibit entrances get a little check mark in front of them. What happens when you collect all the check marks? You head over to the lounge on the first floor, and you'll notice a painting that wasn't there before. Ooh, what could this be? Well, after all those Scully cameos in the various demos, our purple skeleton friend finally gets his own full-on game. Scully's Nightmare. But what kind of game would be so terrifying that even the mascot of haunted PS1 demo disc would be scared to enter into it?
The pull is too strong. I shouldn't, but I must. No, not again.
Oh, well, this is pleasant. No joke, the only game in the entire disc that doesn't have any haunted themes to it whatsoever is Scully's. This seems like your basic PS1 style platformer at first, but it actually has a cool mechanic that I've never personally seen used before. In order to make jumps that would normally be impossible, Scully's able to toss his head mid-jump in order to get that extra bit of distance. And then, as the skull, he can bounce around and find a checkpoint platform to regain his body. Aside from that, it's basically what it looks like. You run around the island dealing with bugs and collecting bones, but it is pretty fun. While the bones are optional, it's the discs that you really want to make sure to grab, as they open up that exit goal at the very top of the island. And what do we find in there? Well, I can't spoil that, can I? I think I'll leave it to you to play and find for yourself. Okay, and now, the second secret and final game of the collection. This one's a little trickier to find. Remember that bathroom from earlier that didn't seem to be anything more than an extra detail for the museum? Well, if you look closely, there's some graffiti in a couple spots. And they're not just jumbled nonsense. Take the two tags, combine them, and revisit the PC in the lounge, and yep, that's the password. And the launcher for the final game, ARD. In the basement of a local community college, a forgotten computer sits, the last relic of the anomalous research department. What was their purpose? What did they find? Was it the solution, or was it the cause? I'm actually really glad that we saved this one for last, because it's easily one of my favorite parts of this entire collection. So ARD begins as what seems to be a retro OS simulator, like a Windows 95 or something. You browse through these emails where you seem to be downloading image files with increasingly disturbing descriptions, eventually ending with a video file of what appears to be footage from a double homicide. No, we can't use the internet unfortunately, but we do have 3D Maze Extreme. Yep, that's the good stuff. Even better, if we go to our media folder, we can actually check out the images that we were downloading earlier. Yep, these are in chill alright. Oh, and there's the video. Shall we click on it? The vid loads up, and sure enough, we actually take control of the recording itself, FPS style. It all takes place in a motel room where we seem to have someone kidnapped and tied up in our bathroom for some reason. But as we walk around, we start getting the not so paranoid impression that someone is not only onto us, but they're watching us. I almost don't want to spoil it so you can experience it for yourself, but legit, this game more than any other on the entire disc was the one to get me spooked the hardest by the end. I'm not just saying that. If you know me, you know it's very rare that I get an actual physical reaction to being scared from a game. But this one accomplished it. Nice work, guys. And with that, the final game has been played. For my estimation, at this point, this is probably the longest review that I've ever done, so I'm not going to linger here much longer. The 2021 Haunted PS1 demo disc not only lived up to the one that I did last year, I think that it actually exceeded it. Hopefully I'll get to the next one before I'm a year late. Well, that's it for me, guys. You have a happy Dia de los Muertos, and hopefully I'll see all of you again very soon.